Welcome to No More Illusions, the show that helps you see clearly so you can soar. I'm excited to share with you an illusion from a special guest, Nievalyn Keel. I know her from being a colleague at KPMG. We served on the Alpha New Jersey board together, and now she is running a thriving Kumon business as an owner and entrepreneur. Now, Nievalyn, I really enjoyed the work we did together and our talks at work about various successes and struggles, and frankly, all the support and encouragement you gave me during the early stages of my coaching career. In fact, I have to give you 100% credit for introducing me to Canva, an excellent graphics app, right? Which has been a huge part of my marketing and branding workflow ever since. So people may not know, and Nievalyn may not know, but she's had a huge positive impact on my career. Let's get situated since we can't be in the same room. Where are you calling from, Nievalyn, and what do you see in front of you or out your window?
So I am in my center. We just ended class. So my center, I have a Kumon Center, Kumon Math and Reading Learning Center, I am located in Bloomfield, New Jersey, right in Bloomfield Center. And out my window, it's pretty late at night, so sun is no longer out. Moon is rising, and I see a pizza place across the way, and we just had some rain. Directly in front of me, I see worksheets and books from my recommended reading list and desks from where my students complete their assignments.
Yeah, excellent, great. So you had an illusion. I haven't had any illusions about parents and children yet on the show, so I was excited to hear your illusion. Maybe you could share with us what your illusion is and how you started thinking about this.
So my illusion is that parenting stops once students become school-aged. And I've been doing this work for just over 4 years, but almost 4.5 years. And in that time, I've had the opportunity to interact with so many different families and students and see how the families approach education and what they, as the parents, what part they take in it, what ownership they take over the child's education, or if they fall back. Right. I noticed that the families where the parents are less engaged, they know less about what's happening in school, and they end up being surprised at the end of the year or at the end of the quarter or at the end of the term. And then they come to me and say, oh, no one told me this was happening, or, that my kid was so behind. And there's, many questions that I think of, whether I say them verbally or just think them in my head. But at the bottom line, parenting needs to continue, right? Your kid goes from being an infant to, not being able to do anything for themselves, to walking around, talking, making decisions. But all across that journey, as a parent, you still have to show up for them. And so when I say show up for them, that changes over time. Right. But you still have to be there, be present, and be actively engaged, and let them know what matters to you, what is important, and what they should value. My parents are immigrants. And so they came to this country, with the idea that America is, this pie in the sky kind of place. And I will say, my parents very much cared about education. They very much engaged with me to see where I was, but they weren't very hands-on in the day-to-day working with me through my assignments. So I grew up, like many latchkey kids, figuring out the assignments, figuring out what I needed to do, and making a way of it. But I think parents these days, they either are lawnmower parents, like we've gone past the helicopter parents, but lawnmower parents.
What's a lawnmower parent?
They're mowing every obstacle out of their kids' way.
Making the kids basically powerless.
Yeah. They're like, oh, no, I don't want any stress. I don't want him to be stressed. I don't want him to be stressed out. And, I tell parents, stress is coming. Right? It's about whether your child is able to stand up to it and how we work together to prepare them for it. So with, Kumon, with learning, we're talking about lots and lots of practice so that when they are tested, they are able to fall back on their training and perform, right? But I think, we have this idea that, oh no, if we don't allow them to be kids, then they lose out on something. But I think you have to think about it as, if I really engage with them about their education, really engage with them about their academics, their sports, like all the things that they want to do, all the facets of who make them, what makes them them, then they're better for it, right? They're better equipped to handle all the things that are coming their way, and it's gonna come, So I think when I talk about this illusion, I talk about, parenting, people thinking, oh, it's not my responsibility. Your child's education is very much your responsibility.
Yeah.
It's very much, because I tell parents this all the time, like, if you don't care about it, your kid's not going to care, likely, right? And you show them you care by devoting your time to it.
So
go ahead.
let's unpack this a little bit, right? I'm really curious as to when you started noticing this and what you noticed. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of underlying observation that happened that brought you to this conclusion or analysis that I'd love to hear about.
So I started this business during COVID, right? As you say, we were at, KPMG together, and we were still home during that time. And, I had, like many people, started to think about, what do I want to do with my life? Is this what I really value, what I'm passionate about? And I came to Kumon. My kids were Kumon students, long-term Kumon students at the time, and thriving, right? They had already reached the point of self-study, but my husband and I were very, very, very much so engaged in their education. So when I came to do this work, I expected more parents to be similar to me, in that, they were very engaged with their kids' education. They were looking at Kumon to, help their kids, reach that next level. It's not that they would be so remedial, but again, I started this during COVID, and a lot of kids lost a lot of learning.
Yeah.
And that happens, and that's expected. I think we all kind of went into it thinking like, okay, the kids are going to suffer because they're not in school all this time. But I don't think enough parents thought about, oh, how can I supplement? What can I do? And they just they were overwhelmed. They didn't know what to do.
Sure.
And so like, in talking to the parents and meeting, students that were severely behind now, it became more clear that, oh, you thought the teachers were going to do this, right? You thought the school was going to solve for this. And it's just not possible, right? The schools have hundreds of kids, maybe thousands of kids that the principals got to manage, the teachers have to manage. And it's just, they can't be expected to cater to your one child, to make sure your child has everything that they need. So as a parent, you have to swoop in and make sure, yep, they can read. Yes, they can do math. When they're doing their homework, they know what to do. They're following on what's happening in the classroom, and, they're okay. And if they're not, get there earlier and be aware, right? Don't wait till, like, I'll hear like parents say, oh, he's a little behind. I'm like, no, I'm sorry, he's not. He's actually extremely behind. But there's a solve for it, right? And so the question is, where were you all this time? Because if you wait until, like, parents will say, oh, well, he's just a little behind, and then wait till like the situation is dire. And if you wait till the situation is dire, now you're talking about years of remedial, years of recovery that we have to work through. So in doing this work and meeting different families, I've met at least 1,000 different families at this point. Yeah, at least 1,000.
Wow.
And the families where the parents are very, very much engaged and, working through homework at home and having their children read to them and, taking an active part in the kids' education, Those families come into Kumon and they adjust better
Okay.
because they know that they have to do something with their kid, right? They know they have to take part in the education. But, you know, families who, everybody's doing the best they can. Everyone is doing the best they can. But families who are not as involved, they're the ones who come in surprised. Um, and it's really like me not only talking to them about Kumon and what we do here, but also, okay, this is what you need to do with your child to make sure that they're staying above where they need to, besides what we're talking about in the Kumon curriculum, but reading with them every day, doing oral pop quizzes on, make sure that they know the math facts and, seeing how they process. And so it became clear that we've got these two types of people, right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that you said, which really piqued my interest, two words, engagement of the parents and also awareness of what's going on and really understanding it. And I have some sort of empathy or sympathy for parents, especially during COVID. It was a hard time. Maybe there was job loss. And frankly, not all of us are educators and really understand those aspects. I mean, we were fortunate. My wife taught, high school English for 10 years. So I defer to her on so many of these decisions, and she knows exactly, how to handle things. But talk to us a little bit about how a parent who perhaps maybe doesn't have that background, maybe even has less education than their kids will eventually have. I don't think that has to be an obstacle. How can they still engage, be aware, and support their child to go as far as they're meant to go?
Yeah. So one thing you have to do with your children is read with them and say you're not a strong reader, right? That happens.
Mm-hmm.
You yourself didn't really understand phonics and didn't remember them and what have you. So reading is a challenge for you. If that is your Achilles heel, then you need to work double hard, right? 3 times as hard. And so I tell families, because I've got families who don't speak English and, so their kids trying to learn to read and write English and, so they can be productive in school. And families who aren't, the parents will confess to me that, I was never a great reader or was never good at math or what have you. You learn with your kid. And I think that's okay, right? Yeah. You can be honest to say, Johnny, I wasn't good at this either, but you know what? I'm going to sit here with you and we're going to work through it together. Right? Your child is learning how to read. You learn to read also. Take the time. Everything is available on the internet. You can, Google the sounds that the letters make, right? At the alphabet sounds, consonant combinations, vowel combinations, everything you need to be able to decode in a familiar word. And make reading a part of what you do as a family. Like if you try to be better at it, you can be better at it. And so make it the thing that you do together. Like every day we're going to read 15 minutes out loud. You know why, Johnny? Because I need it too.
Yeah. Well, what I'm hearing from you, Nievalyn, which is really resonating a lot, is it's less about like teaching, right? Like I can't teach my son calculus at this point. I've forgotten all of it. But it's more the modeling of the values, of the behavior, of the discipline, right? To say, look, you got to get your homework done before you can play Nintendo, or just, having that, setting those sort of fences or guidelines for your child. It's not that you have to become your child's math teacher.
No, exactly. Like when we started my son in Kumon, we knew there would be a point where we probably wouldn't necessarily be able to help him in school,
right?
Which is why we kept him in Kumon, because I wanted him to be able to learn independently. Right. And I never did I think I was going to own my own center, but I wanted him to be able to learn independently, and I wanted him to learn how to learn. So while, we made sure that he did his work, if he had questions, we would work through it with him. The expectation was he knew that it was important to us, and we were there to support him through it, whatever that meant, whatever he needed. Right. I have heard of people say, I don't want them. And this is kind of old time thing. people, like a child will be studying, the parents say, oh, you're using my lights, right? You're using the electricity to turn it off, which is terrible, right? I don't think parents these days do that. I
Right,
hope
right, right.
they don't,
Yeah.
right? Because that's a very old time kind
Yeah,
of,
yeah, yeah.
thought process and thinking, but also not actively engaging in learning yourself,
Yeah.
right? I'm always learning something.
Hmm.
My kids know learning is very important to me. This last year and a bit, I've taken on learning Spanish.
Mm.
I took Spanish through college, but that's a long time ago. And like I said earlier, I've got a lot of families who don't speak any English, and I want to be able to communicate with them as well as I can with my native English speakers. And so last year, I started taking Spanish at a school in Newark,
Wonderful.
a language school in Newark. So um, my kids have seen me learning many things over the years, and that's my latest, project, right? But even watching your parent go through school or take on this new task and learn how to do something new, that tells you, oh wow, learning is really important, and you never stop learning.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know.
one thing that I don't know if that I intentionally do this with our son Lucas, but I feel like this is also an important aspect of learning, which is I'll learn something interesting
Mhm.
and I'll share it with him,
Mhm.
partially for him to learn, but it's actually helping me learn by
Mhm.
explaining. And then sometimes I realize I didn't understand it the way I did. And I noticed he's been doing that to me as well. So he'll be reading a book about, I don't know, the crash of 1929 or 2000, in 2008, and he'll share with me aspects that he finds interesting. So I learn, but I feel like he's also reinforcing
Yeah.
what he learned. And parents can play a great, it's sort of like a partnership almost, or a buddy, even though obviously
Yeah.
you're the parents, but
Yeah.
it feels very cooperative in a way.
Yeah. 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 No, it's that modeling, that engagement. That's exactly what our kids need, right?
Hmm.
They don't know what they don't know. They don't know how important it is. They think they're learning for us,
Yeah.
right? They don't understand that, no, you're learning so you have opportunities, so you have doors open to you, so doors don't shut before you realize they're there. Right? And so by showing this example that I'm an ongoing learner, I'm an ongoing learner, I'm a lifelong learner, I'm an adult learner for whatever it is that you need in life, right? To constantly be engaging and being what they say, if you're not learning, you're dying, or something like that.
Right, right, right.
And so modeling that is parenting.
So let me ask you a question. This is a random brainstorm idea. Does Kumon or any other sort of similar group have almost like a course or a video or something to help parents understand exactly what you're talking about, right? Like if you want maximum success for your Kumon child, this is how you can support them as a
Mhm.
parent. Because I think what you've described to me, honestly, a lot of these parents just don't realize. It's not bad faith. It's
Yeah.
not they don't care about their kids. They just don't
Don't
have
know.
that
Yeah.
knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. It's not, for the most part, it's not out of maliciousness,
Yeah,
right? They don't mean to be a blockade
right.
for their children's success. It's really, no one's told them. Like I've had families and their second or third grader can't read. And I say, well, do you guys read at home?
Hmm.
Do you read with them? Oh no. Do I have to? Right?
Hmm.
That's the answer I've gotten multiple
Yeah,
times. And so it never dawned on them.
yeah, yeah.
And so, to answer your question, there are tons of videos about how Kumon works
Hmm.
and how the student needs to practice and all that, but it doesn't go to the point of saying, if you want, maximum success as a Kumon parent,
Hmm. Hmm.
what that requires. And so, that's a good point. That's a good point. But I think it's left to the instructor to communicate with the parents and say, hey, this is what I noticed when I assessed them on the initial assessment. These are things you can do at home with them to keep them learning, keep them engaged. And I do that all the time with families who are prospective families, who are current families. And when people are, ready to move on, their kid has reached where they're supposed to reach and they feel satisfied and they, want to try another activity. I tell them to keep them reading, keep
Yeah.
them reading, keep them reading, keep them learning, keep them reading. And so, yeah, it's a good point. That's a good
Well,
point.
the reason why I asked that question is I don't know Kumon, but I know you, Nivalyn, and I know your passion. And I
Uh-huh.
know when you see something that needs to be said, you're going to say it to the parents.
Uh-huh.
That's the kind of instructor, that's the kind of human being you are. Now, maybe not all Kumon instructors are like that, right? So you could have a large amount of people sending their kids to Kumon who are not told this because I don't know why the instructor, maybe they're too busy, maybe they don't care, maybe they're scared they'll lose a customer. There could be many reasons, but
Yeah.
they may not be delivering the message the way you do. And I feel like that's a missed opportunity.
Yeah, yeah. No, it is, right? A large part of our role is not only educating the kids, but it's communicating with the parents and educating them.
Yeah.
And I will definitely say I did not realize I knew parent communication was important because
Yeah.
I was a Kumon parent. I know how vital that is to, helping you as the parent keep your child engaged when they hit those rough spots, when the
Mhm.
work is really challenging and they don't want to do it anymore. But I did not realize how much it would take out of, me to make sure that my parents were, fully engaged and fully aware of what their role was in terms of, child's education. Not till doing this and not till, encountering these families who really have no clue, right? No one was that hands-on with them or, checked in on them when they were developing, or maybe they just, got lucky and they didn't realize all the hands that were holding them up, right? Because that happens too. You didn't realize how many people were, guiding you through, and you just take it for granted, and you're not necessarily being, um, taking on that role to be as engaged, and then your kid falters, and you're like, I don't know what happened, but everyone was lifting you up. You just weren't paying attention to it, right? Because that happens.
Well, I find it very funny that you made the number one mistake that a lot of us make, which is assuming that others are like us, right? You're like,
Yeah,
of course they're going to read to their kid and
of
they're going
course.
to be engaged. And if
Yeah.
there's a C on that report card, they will clock. You know what I mean? But it's not true, right? There's all different types of parents, all different
Yeah.
types of families.
Yeah.
One other point, and I jest, of course, but one other point is that I wanted to share with you that this is bringing out is I've been thinking a lot about individual kind of performance and learning and what you need to do as as the learner, but then also acknowledging that learners exist in a system, right? You don't exist like you attend a school where you have certain teachers and
Mhm.
facilities. And it just dawned on me that the child parent relationship forms maybe a more crucial system than the child in the school.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you think about it, right? The kids in school 8 hours, right? But it's 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
So the rest of the time it's on the parent.
Yeah.
So you have to be actively engaged. You can't allow the outside world to raise your children. You can't allow the outside world to dictate what is what is important, because otherwise you kind of leave everything up for chance. And we can do what we can do, only what we can do, and life is going to continue to happen. And sometimes, often there's a bit of luck that happens as well.
Of course.
But of the things that I can control, I want to make sure that I've done all the things that I can, right? um and those aspects of life that are outside of your control, if you've prepared enough, then no complaints, right? You've done all you can do. And so we ask our children, work as hard as you can, do the best you can, prepare leading up to the exam, prepare leading up to the presentation, whatever it is. And then, you know, that's all. You don't second guess it after it's happened. Um, yeah.
So for any parents out there, whether, their child is in Kumon or a similar school or not, but for any parents out there listening who want to be more actively engaged and more aware of their child's education, but perhaps are at a loss as to where to start because either they weren't raised that way or they're just overwhelmed. What are some, really
Basic things.
basic things that they can start to think about and implement that don't cost money, don't require a lot of time, but just require like attention and
Yeah.
investment?
I would say read with your kid every day.
Mm,
I tell parents, 15 minutes, but if you can start at 5 minutes, start
mhm.
at 5 minutes. And then as it becomes more comfortable, you'll find that you want to do it more. Your kid wants to do it more. They start bringing you books, and it's true,
Yeah,
right?
it's great.
Start with like, okay, let's pick up a book, 5 minutes, read a page or two,
Yeah.
right? But commit to that, and then you read a page, your kid reads a page, and then you talk about it, have a
Yeah.
conversation about it, make sure that they're understanding what they've read, right? If there's words that are unfamiliar to them, explain it to them, and if you're not quite sure, look it up in a dictionary.
Yeah.
And so like you can do little things, and you're in the car with them going to practice or to school or grandma's house or what have you. Just ask them a few random math questions, right?
Hmm.
7 plus 6, what's the number after 8? Let's count to 100. Let's count backwards, right? I mean, but these
Right.
are little things that
Yeah.
will help strengthen their mental math ability, right? And it doesn't take a long time. I used to, and I'll do this now. If I'm really trying to go to sleep
Hmm.
and my brain is wired, I'll count backwards from 1,000. And
Hmm.
all of a sudden I am asleep. So
Hmm.
like you can be laying with your kid if your kid still wants to lay with you
Hmm.
and say, okay, let's count backwards. Let's count to 100. If they're still wired, okay, let's count to 200. And then say, okay, let's count backwards, right?
Hmm.
And that will get them to go to sleep. But these are they don't cost a lot of money. Go to the library. The library has all
Oh, yeah. I
these
love that.
books,
Love that.
and get the library card. Get some books and really decide that you're going to spend time on educating yourself, educating your kid, learning how they learn. I always liked homework because like when I children did homework and when I got to see their homework, because I get to see like where they were faltering
Yeah.
and what they needed reinforcement on, right? I know I've heard families say, oh, they shouldn't get homework or, what have you. I think homework is a great idea for that reason. So you are informed about what's happening. But pay attention to what they're doing in the homework. If they do their homework before you get home, say, let me go take a look at it. Bring your homework to me. I want to see what you did. And that way, if they're missing pages, missing items in the homework, or they don't understand something, that gives you an opportunity to either help them figure it out or let the teacher know, send the teacher an email like, hi, Miss Johnson, I was working with Timmy on the assignment and it was a little confusing. I couldn't figure it out. I, Googled and YouTube and still couldn't figure it out. Um, but I think taking those extra few minutes just to hold your child accountable and be a part of what's happening. We're missing that as a society.
Yeah.
I have a lot of parents who say, "Oh, I just want to let them do it. I let them, I trust them, so I want them to, work it out on their own." But they're too young.
Yeah.
They're too young. They don't understand the implications of a bad grade today and what happens 5 years from now,
Yeah. Well,
right?
what I love about what you're sharing, Nivalyn, is, two things are coming to mind. One is they are absorbing through osmosis what you value, right? As a parent, they look up to you and like, what is valuable? Education is valuable. Doing these
Mm-hmm.
things is valuable. And then even more so than like making sure that all their homework is correct or those sorts of things, that you care, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you care about these things, that you care
Mm-hmm.
that they develop in this way. I feel, I'm not an educator, but I feel it goes a huge way to motivating them intrinsically, right? That internal motivation, which is so important as
Yeah.
opposed to external rewards like praise or bribery or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we as learning centers, we charge a fee,
Sure.
right? Where we have staff, we're paying our staff, we're, feeding our families, all of that. Kids don't see the fee. They don't know how hard you had to work to be able to pay that tuition.
Yeah.
But what they do see is the time that you spent bringing them,
Yep.
bringing them regularly to class, making sure they're doing their work daily, asking them questions and ensuring that they understand. But that quality time, because, oh, wow, this is really important. Oh, my dad's going to ask. I better do it. Even if they don't want to, they're going to do it because they know you're going to ask about it.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's, to your point, that's how we show what matters.
Mm-hmm.
Right. When you take time to go, oh, we're having our family vacation, that's time away from doing, from working. So they know vacations are important.
Yeah.
Right. So how else are you spending your time? How else are you apportioning your time to show your child what you value?
Yeah. I'll share a quick story about that where I saw this in stark relief. One summer I was working at a law firm, New York law firm, a lot of big shots there. And my part-time mentor there for the summer was this very senior attorney. And I remember the, admins were like, Joseph, this guy, he puts all the younger associates to shame. He's got this incredible work ethic and the hours he puts in. He was like, you're really fortunate to have this person as your mentor, right? So I'm like, I don't really know the guy. He seems nice. And so I'm having one of the regular meetings and he asked me to come into his office. He's on the phone and I'm like waiting outside. He's like, no, come in, and I sit down while he's on the phone and he looks a little upset and he finishes the phone call and he turns to me. He was like, Joseph, I'm so upset at my son. His grandmother's, I'm making numbers up, like 80th or 90th birthday is coming up and he's not going to be able to come because he's going to be on this case. And the thing that really, gets me upset is he asked to be on this case. Like he didn't need to miss it. And like, I'm looking at the guy and, I'm thinking, where do you think he learned this from? Right? Like Mr. Big Shot, senior attorney, like how many soccer games did you miss and how many trips did you take where you were just not there? I mean, I don't know if that's the case. Like, I'm not going to judge, but like instinctually, I was like, the apple doesn't fall very far from the tree.
Yeah. No, it's true. They, kids don't do what we say. They do what we do.
Mm-hmm.
They do what we do. And so you've got to model the behaviors and remember they're watching you.
Oh yeah.
Not only are they watching you, but when they go to school, they're telling everything.
Oh no. Some fear just struck into my heart, Nievalyn. Oh boy.
They tell it all. So, be mindful of the example that you set.
Yeah.
You really have to, right? I would say, for families, you engage with the education, go to the school meetings as often as you can, talk to the teachers and really ensure your child knows that education is important to you. I mean, education is the ground, foundation of everything.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
If you learn how to read, learn how to do math, and you can do anything. But if you are you can't read well, your number sense is not great, then life is going to be challenging. And so that's why we do it, right? We want to ensure that any room our students go into, they feel like they belong. They can, show their smarts and, be accepted. And so it's up to us as parents, up to us as educators to ensure that the students or children know why they're doing it, what they're working toward, and it's a team.
So, Nievalyn, I've really enjoyed our conversation. I wanted to let you know that you have really inspired me on multiple levels. It's not just you taking your career into your own hands and, learning through many difficulties, I'm sure, how to run a business, but also sort of the nature of the work that you're doing and the way that it shapes lives and helps communities. And it's really inspiring to me. I'm not surprised because I know you a little bit from, serving together in various capacities. And I just want to let you know, I'm really grateful that we've stayed connected and that we were able to do this together. Now, for folks who may be interested in learning more about you, learning more about Kumon, or just anything we talked about, what's a good way for folks to get to connect or get in touch with you?
My Instagram, I think that's the popular thing that the people are doing today. Kumon Bloomfield Center,
Okay.
KUMN Bloomfield Center. That's the best way to watch what I'm doing. I share nuggets, and I call them Nievalyn's Nuggets.
Love it.
About parenting, Kumon parenting, instructor stuff. And so that's a great way to stay engaged with me.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Nievalyn, so much for coming on the show, sharing your illusion and the great work you've been doing.
Thank you, Joe.
If you're enjoying the show, make sure to follow us on Spotify. It really does help more people discover it. And if you're ready to stop being overlooked and finally get recognized for what you bring to the table, check out my new book, The Credibility Gap. Stop being overlooked and finally get recognized. You can learn more at the No More Illusions website at nomoreillusions.lovable.app, where you'll also find the credibility audit and other resources to help you see clearly so you can soar. Thanks for listening to No More Illusions. I'm Joe Kwon, the Connection Counselor. Take care and remember, clarity reveals, illusion steals.